Hey everybody, this is Spot, and welcome to Local Gods, your, what is it we're doing? Friendly Neighborhood Podcast?
Yes.
This is episode 5. I'm here with my co-host, Horath Drak. You know what's weird? I always say your last name with a rolling R for some reason. I say it like Drak. Is that incorrect? I assume it's incorrect.
I'm just doing a short one because I have Germanized it. Drak.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting. I've been putting a lot of time actually when I'm like on the toilet and stuff. As you know, I do a lot of stuff on the toilet. And I've been doing a lot of German stuff on Duolingo. That's a dude. There are parts of that language that are awesome, and there's parts I'm like, wait, what? But it's good. I'm liking it.
Yeah, it's the fun of learning a new language.
Exactly. Yes. And far more structured than English, which is nice. Okay, so what have you been doing this week?
Yeah, I've been playing Expeditions Viking almost exclusively. Been recording a crap ton of that.
Yes.
Yeah, Stellaris as always.
Really? You've been playing Stellaris? Wow.
Yeah, you might not suspect it, but I actually did. But I also took a week off. I had some holidays, played a lot of Witcher 3. Mm-hmm. Now I got a serious Gwent problem.
Very nice. Okay, cool. Well, we'll talk about some of that stuff in a bit. But yeah, so anything else?
Nah, I think that about covers it.
Awesome. I have been doing mainly work as usual.
That's your game.
Yes, exactly. I did play some Stellaris with some interesting results, actually, which we will talk about in a bit, which is kind of interesting. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to mute my phone like a professional would.
Oh, nice.
So that it stops. Yeah. I'm getting up there in the world, I'm telling you.
What about half-assing, though?
You're right. Yeah, it is a half-assing fail.
We're not good at that.
Completely. Yes, no, not at all. So do you want to get into some news?
Yeah, all right. We talked about that Atlus thing. Atlus putting out a press release for Persona 5 that they were going to ban people, copyright claim people if they were streaming and doing Let's Plays past a certain day. They have apologized for that, which is very interesting.
Yeah, and actually that mirrors up with something else we're going to talk about in a minute, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of does.
Yeah, you know, it's funny about this that, you know, I'm like, oh wow, that's wild, and then I'm reading the article, and they're not like, you know what, you're right, this is stupid, we're just going to drop this weird embargo thing and everything's good. No, they're like, no, we're moving the date. Yeah, isn't that right?
Yeah, you still can't record after a certain in-game date, which is a spoiler in and of itself, right? If they're concerned about spoilers, then why put something like that in a press release? I mean, they're spoiling more than you might have just had been spoiled if you'd just seen it in passing. Like they're saying, yeah, after this certain date, things are going to happen.
Yeah, it's like watching a movie with someone and going, you think it's good now. You wait for 3.5 more minutes and something massive's going to happen. I mean, like, okay.
Right.
I guess it's not a complete spoiler, but, you know, it is surprising. Maybe it shows a little bit of forward movement in what was seemingly, you know, a rock hard position before.
Yeah, at least for the Japanese firms. I did not expect them to apologize, but good on them, actually. Good on them.
Smart. Very smart.
Kind of smart.
Because everyone around them is doing the opposite as far as Japanese companies are concerned.
Yeah.
It counts for even more because you have that nice contrast with everyone else. So that's good.
Yeah, maybe they come around after a couple more years or something.
Yeah, hopefully. Speaking of Japanese companies, so Total Biscuit has had a long term, which even he says most people probably forgot, which actually I had multiple times until you brought it up, that he had boycotted Sega for good reason, I think. I mean, honestly, Sega, it wasn't even something like what Sega did wasn't even like the Atlus people where they're just kind of rude about it. Sega was like going after people. Yeah. Like ruined people's channels.
Sega Japan destroyed channels because they wanted to improve their search results.
Complete bullshit. Yeah. You know, and so I get the boycott, and he's pretty much decided that it's just not worth it anymore. And you know, it's weird. This is kind of a bittersweet thing. Like, I understand it, but at the same time, it's like, man, yeah. But I mean, I think he's right. I think he's right in that, you know, it's not going to change. They're not, you know, Sega Japan is not, especially now, they're not going to come back all this time and go, you know what, we were wrong, because they still think they're right. Guarantee you. Most of these companies, actually, I think, not to harp on Japan, even Western companies, they don't be nice to streamers because they feel that, you know, it's the morally correct thing to do. They do it from a marketing perspective, right? A PR perspective, which makes sense. And I think you and I both, when we're talking about these Japanese companies doing this and we're saying that they're morons, we're talking also about a PR perspective as well, you know, but they just don't get it. But like Nintendo, right? I mean, I don't think Nintendo has actually seen any type of negative impact to their bottom line. I mean, that they can quantify from people boycotting them as far as streamers and stuff.
I
maybe.
know. I mean, it's hard to quantify how much negative publicity something like, for example, Angry Joe having to redo his Zelda Breath of the Wild video like 24 times or something until it does not get claimed anymore by the Nintendo bot for any.
But that's my point, right? He redid it, though. It's not like he was like, screw this, I'm not going to cover this. He redid it. They won in the end, right? He still covered their content. He just covered it in the exactly meticulous way that they required. And so that's the point. It's like they're not. I think the way TV was approaching it was a lot better. It's like, I'm not going to cover your content. You will not get that outlet from me. But most people, you know, again, Nintendo, that they know if they release a new, you know, freaking Zelda game, everyone's going to go and buy it. You know,
I won't.
Everyone.
And I won't cover the shit either.
I won't either. But at the same time, I'm not a huge Zelda fan. I'm saying, you know, Zelda fans, Nintendo is not going to do anything that are going to get, you know, any more than even I'll say a 0.25% of hardcore Zelda fans to not buy a new Zelda game because of something they did. It's just not going to happen because most people are cattle, including me at times, right? I mean, you know, there are times, you know, it's like, well, we've talked about Mass Effect before and the way EA handles things, and still I'm going to go buy a fucking Mass Effect game, a new Mass Effect game, because I'm cattle when it comes to that stuff. So
yeah, gotta say that the Prothean DLC that they did for part 3, which caused Total Biscuit again to boycott that game, was also pretty egregious.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. So, I mean, I think my question about this is, I mean, this isn't really about TB. It's about, does this show that, I mean, because TB, he's not the largest YouTuber out there, but he's one of the far bigger ones, obviously. And if him boycotting a major publisher doesn't work and he eventually, you know, falls back, does this set a precedent? I mean, does this tell all those companies, you know what, it doesn't really matter?
I've been thinking a lot about this because I actually have been observing the boycott as well. I don't cover Sega games on my channel either because it's just not worth it doing business with them for me. Like, I could cover Total War games and stuff. I love those games, but I'm just not going to bring them on the channel because you never know what they might do.
Right.
I think it's kind of a sensible thing, and it takes some real courage to say after 5 years this didn't do anything. I'm going to eat my words and I'm going to continue covering stuff again. He did have some success with the whole G2A thing. Gearbox was doing a special deal with G2A because of Bulletstorm and all that, and Total Biscuit put out that he was going to boycott them then, and then Gearbox sort of contacted him and consulted with him, and then because G2A is kind of a shady business. They're selling
kind of.
Yeah, they are shady. Okay, they are shady. They're really shady. Yeah, but that worked. That worked, right? That boycott worked, and it brought some immediate thing to the light of day.
Yeah, I think we're dealing with large companies. Like, if we just want to look at the differences between Gearbox and Sega, for example, right? Gearbox is primarily a developer, not as much of a publisher, although they do some of their own publishing and, you know, publishing for other people. But they're primarily a developer. They're a lot smaller than Sega, and I think that, you know, the differences there show that we're dealing with primarily a cultural thing. When I say cultural, I don't just mean Japanese versus like West, which that is part of the case, right? But also we're talking about a cultural thing as far as like Sega has been around a long time, right? It's like, long story short, one of the companies I used to work for, we met with a ancient company that is a huge name, which I won't go into right now, right? And we sat down at a conference with them and we just said, oh, hey, you know, blah, 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 and we would like to do this, blah, blah, blah. And the woman representing them stood up and said, I don't have any time for this, and we are, enter their name, we don't really need you, and walked out. That was obviously an extreme example.
Right,
but
that's the way you do business.
Right. I think that the reason that doesn't happen more is simply because that's not how you do business. It's not because that's not what they think. And I think with Sega, that's how they think. And I think with Nintendo, that's how they think. And again, I think with even like EA, that's how they think. But EA has understood that, wow, I just had a piece of acoustic foam fall off the ceiling onto my head. That was awesome. Anyway, so I need to attach those a little bit better, don't I? But even with EA, they've figured out that, you know, the downside for them, which may be a more lack of control over the content, is lower than the upside of them getting the extra marketing. And so that's what they're doing. So with Gearbox, I think it's easier to turn them around because they're smaller, they have more to lose, and a lot of their games are a little bit more niche, you know, than like Sega and Nintendo's like massive sprawling offerings. But yeah, I mean, I think that I don't think we're going to see a massive change on like Nintendo and Sega, especially until we get to a point to where, you know, they start either they get smaller because they're just making bad market decisions, which has happened to Sega in the past, right? And has happened to Nintendo as well. Or something happens that people start refusing their products enough where they can quantifiably start seeing a significant bottom line hit.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. That quantifiableness is not always the case. I mean, they have been on a huge crusade versus piracy, for example, and you cannot really show that piracy makes you lose sales, because you cannot really show that people that pirated your game would have bought it in the first place. So it's difficult to say that you really lost those sales. You might actually gain sales from piracy because people might decide to buy it after all.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll say, which this isn't really a discussion about piracy, but we should probably have one at some point. Not to justify piracy, but just to combat it and to back up your point of piracy can actually give you sales, is when you have a really good game and like 30% of the really goodness, and I'm not talking about like DLC or anything, but I mean the really good 30% is actually stuff you can only access online. And I don't mean like gating content that shouldn't be online. I mean like actual systems. You know, like example, you can pirate Grand Theft Auto 5, but a large portion of the fun of Grand Theft Auto 5 is the Grand Theft Auto Online part, which you can't really do unless you own Grand Theft Auto 5, right? I'm still actually wondering why more companies aren't providing really good mod support and then putting all of the DRM that they have around, not restricting mods, but you can only run them if you don't have a pirated version, right? I mean, like a lot of games, like even Skyrim would probably be great by them just releasing a free version of Skyrim and then saying, but if you want to use mods, you got to buy the full game. And they would probably get a lot of really good sales off that. So yeah, provide real true services and benefits, again, not just gated content, but true benefits to a game that you only get from owning it, because those pieces require you being connected to an authorized source of some kind, you know, like a game server. And fun times. We should move on.
Yeah, let's move on. I mean, we're not going to change Japanese game companies either.
Yeah, but it is fun to, you know, I guess, contemplate. So Twitch has started an affiliate program. Do you want to run with that? I'll just point out, I think calling it an affiliate program is very weird and misleading, because affiliate programs are usually something completely different than this. Go ahead.
Yeah, kind of. I'm thinking of it like the multi-channel networks. They can either be an affiliate partner or a managed partner. I think they're taking it from that sort of as their mold.
That makes sense.
So you sort of affiliate partner, you're kind of a lower level partner, but you the good thing is that you are going to have the sub button.
Well, eventually you will, right?
It's coming. I think there's a list that says coming soon subscription. So to become a Twitch partner is not as easy, right? You need a lot of concurrent viewers, good amount of watch time. You need to stream regularly. You need a certain amount of followers. And that has been significantly lowered for Twitch affiliates.
Significantly, actually. When I was reading this, actually, I think I was on the toilet again. Anyway, when I was reading this, I actually was thinking to myself, yeah, this is going to be low, but I mean, like, not like really low. And then I was like looking at the requirements that they posted, and I'm thinking, holy shit, like, if I was still streaming when I stopped back in August, I actually had numbers high enough to qualify for this. And I'm like, man, they're going really low, because I had a tiny channel.
I was thinking about you as well. I was also comparing the metrics in my head. So it's at least 500 total minutes broadcast in the last 30 days, at least 7 unique broadcast days in the last 30 days, an average of 3 concurrent viewers over more over the last 30 days, and at least 50 followers. I mean, that's not a very high bar.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was tiny and I was streaming, I think, like 4 days a week, and I would stream for like 5 hours. So there's the time and there's the days. I had probably at least 5, if not 6 or 7 concurrents easy. And I had like 220 followers or something. And I bring that up because I was a non-existent channel. Like, those are really low requirements. I was really surprised.
I don't know. Those were some fun Dwarf Fortress streams. I gotta say, I had fun.
Example, I meet those requirements by streaming Dwarf Fortress. If you can meet Twitch requirements for an affiliate by streaming Dwarf Fortress, they're very low, very, very low.
I don't know. Dwarf Fortress is actually quite popular, don't you think?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. If the person knows how to play it, which I don't. It was fun.
It was enjoyable enough. Just
good. Okay, I'm glad you liked it.
I liked it. But yeah, it actually does make streaming more attractive for me. I've been holding off for a while on it, mainly because I'm sort of going to move at the end of May, and I want to go for a more permanent setup. I have this green screen setup that is just put on metal sticks and stuff, and it's moving back and forth. It's kind of a crappy thing. But once I moved, I'm actually going to go for a more permanent thing, and then I'm going to start streaming. And the big thing about this is that you can actually get the subscriptions, which I think is actually really nice. Gotta say.
Oh yeah, because the thing is that people have been able to take donations through other services. For actually, there are other services for subscriptions as well, but they're not as as streamlined as obviously having a freaking subscribe button on your page. And the thing about subscriptions is that from the streamer's point of view, a lot more reliable income. Right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they're going to limit. Did they say anything about limiting the cost of subscriptions? Like, are they going to be the same price of the $4.99? Are they going to take a bigger chunk?
The other bit of news is actually that Twitch has announced tiered subscriptions where you can go up to more expensive subscriptions. I have no idea if that's going to be in there for the Twitch affiliates. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, there is one thing that I noticed about this article. It seemed like I'm reading this and I'm going, okay, actually, this makes a lot more sense, and obviously they've got that tech in place and they feel comfortable that they can handle the systems scaled, right? Because obviously, especially with the requirements this low, the amount of people that they're going to have to manage on on the billing and all that stuff is significantly higher than just with normal partners. I got to the point where they're like talking to current partners and they're going way out of their way to go, don't worry, you're still special, it's going to be good, you're going to have all these good things, we're going to get you even nicer things. No unrest. We don't want our unrest modifier to go up. It's okay. And I'm like, really? Wow, this is really annoying. I expect, though, they're slowly going to kind of merge those things to where everyone is just a part. Because, I mean, really, look, here's what they want to get. This is another thing I got from the article. They want to be YouTube for streaming as far as revenue is concerned. They want to get to a point to where there's no invitation or anything or blah, blah, blah. Like when you get to, I mean, like you can't even apply for this. They will just send you an invite when you pass the requirements. They want to get to a point to where if you want to stream, you can make money. And so they're trying to undercut YouTube, which I think is a great idea from a business perspective. Makes perfect sense for streamers, because YouTube sucks for streamers as far as most people consider it.
Even if YouTube were great for streamers, YouTube has to have competition. It just has to have...
No, absolutely.
If I start streaming, I'm not going to stream on YouTube. It's just not a thing. Even if YouTube were great, you need a second place where you can live, especially with big publishers being able to hit you willy-nilly and destroy your channel and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
You need a second place where you can live, basically.
Yeah, it seemed that Amazon has taken a much more hands-on approach to like content intervention and things like that than YouTube has. But the thing is, to be perfectly honest, they've been able to do that because one of the problems YouTube has is that they're putting ads on everything. So pretty much, from even a legal perspective, like a liability perspective, they're making money off this content. So they have to police a lot more content. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if we found out that the reason that it's taken Twitch this long is that by not putting ads and stuff on content, they have a lot higher, ability to tell content holders, it happens. We're sorry. We're not making any money off of it, but, blah, blah, blah. But once they start putting ads on stuff, they have to police it. So I'm hoping that the whole, again, the content intervention stuff with Twitch doesn't become far more automated with this system.
Yeah, that would suck, definitely. I'm of two minds. On the one hand, I really want to see something like this go to court, right? Someone streaming something or doing a Let's Play or something, and then they're getting sued and they're actually going to court to find out once and for all if you can do this, if it's within your rights, and if it's fair use or if it isn't. On the other hand, the situation currently is okay-ish. You can do it if you watch out. I'm not sure if we would lose more than we gain. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? That's like when we were talking about the whole Blizzard suing thing. It's like, well, that could turn out good and it could turn out bad.
Yeah,
just depends. Precedent can really suck sometimes, but we'll see.
Yeah, but this is a really good thing. I'm happy. They're trying to sort of get a bit of the Patreon money that people are getting. This is the other way that you can sort of make yourself a little bit more independent from ad stuff and YouTube and all that kind of thing. What is the split on the subscriptions for Twitch? What do they take?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have no idea. I've never been a partner, so I don't know.
The big partners, they just have to suck it up. It's just a market. People that are already in the market are always going to be hostile towards incumbents. That's just how it goes. Deal deal with it.
Yep.
Shall we move on?
Yes.
Alrighty. What's the next thing? Yeah, Vivendi is still trying to take over Ubisoft. After years and years of hostile takeovers. I've been linking you the Rock Paper Shotgun article. I'm not sure if these people really understand the way that stock markets work and all that kind of stuff, because there are some problems in there. Like it says, Vivendi already own around 25% of Ubisoft's share these days, but as we already knew, once they reach 30%, Ubi will be legally obliged to invite Vivendi to make them an offer whether they want to or not. That's actually completely false.
Well, this says it's a French law.
That's a French law. Right. Okay. I take it back. It definitely doesn't work like that in other stuff. Okay.
It doesn't work like that here either. That's crazy.
That would be odd. Okay, the French.
That's a very odd law.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Interesting. That's pretty hardcore. I do find it interesting that they're moving so publicly on it, though, because Ubisoft's been kind of screaming about it for a while. Understandably, I'm surprised Vivendi is still moving. I guess their whole people be kind of pissed off because the latest thing, and then they'll calm down and they still want the game. It's the normal problem that we were talking about with the Japanese companies. People are still going to buy the game. So,
well, I actually don't care one bit if it's games from Vivendi or games from Ubisoft. It's the same thing.
Well,
people are not going to change. I mean, Ubisoft isn't really super indie or holding up the colors of quality. I mean, they're just a publisher. I'm sorry. I mean,
yeah, but there is something, and maybe this is the American in me talking. There is something about forcing people to take an offer or give up something when they don't want to. That's why they call it hostile takeover, because it is a hostile thing. They're being forced into it, and like even current shareholders would be forced into it. So
that's just how business works.
Well, okay.
What?
Okay.
What?
Wait.
Them's are the rules.
Maybe you should be living in America because, dude, there you go. But yeah. So anyway,
the weird thing is Vivendi already had Activision and Blizzard before selling them off, which is odd, right? Why were they selling the thing and now they're requiring a thing again? That is the weirdest thing in this whole mess.
I mean, it depends on how much money they got for it, right? I mean, they might have just flipped it. They're like, okay, it's worth, we could get this much liquid out of it, and they cash out. And now they're looking to do it again. And
that now the German in me says that's not a sustainable model, right? Why flip something if it is producing revenue? The flipping model, yeah, I just don't like it.
Well, there is such thing as profit, right? So I mean, I know you know this, but I'm just saying, like, it's one of the, well, it's like take real estate, like house flipping, right? They buy houses that need $20,000 worth of work, and no one wants to do it, so they buy it, they put $20,000 in it, and they sell it for twice what they paid for it. It's a thing. But usually, unlike this case, when you're buying a house that only needs $20,000 of work, there's not people currently living in it, right? So anyway,
there's an old stock exchange saying in German it is hin und her macht die Taschen leer. So going back and forth empties your pockets.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, unless you're good at it, if you make profit on every single deal.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on.
Well, okay. So Hearts of Iron 4 is coming out with a tiny DLC. We're not going to call it an expansion.
Minor DLC.
Yeah. It's and they're just expanding focus to Hungary, Romania, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, blah blah blah. And there's some other stuff coming in, right?
Yeah. Overhauls for AI and I think air battle.
Yeah, which they need really bad.
Yeah. It is actually super micromanagey.
It's and doesn't make sense in most cases. It's very odd.
Well,
very odd.
Although I think that might be part of the patch. Yeah, AI and air action are going to be part of the patch, so
that's good.
That is how it should be. And then if you want the additional flavor, then you can just buy the DLC.
Right. So there's not a whole lot of news here. That's about it. But I would like to tack on the end of this something that's odd. You played Hearts of Iron 4, right? I know that you're not really into World War II games, but
I played Hearts of Iron 4, the Germany campaign, basically.
Right. Okay. Cool. So here's my thing with Hearts of Iron 4. Like, and it's such a big deal, and I don't have this with any other Paradox game, and it's such a big deal that honestly, every time I think about playing it, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe you can explain to me, why is the capitulation mechanic so weird? Like, you have this thing where you get to a point and a country capitulates, but they don't really capitulate. Seemingly random portions of their territory go over to your color, and there's these pockets or entire continents which still have them on it, and it just seems odd. And like, it's not like Resistance, which would make more sense, by the way, with just highly heightened and unrest in certain areas, there's a government still there, right? You can still talk to them, kind of, because they still hold pockets of the world. It's the weirdest thing I've ever encountered, and I've never seen it in any other Paradox game. And I know they're trying to do something that's not like, oh, this entire country surrenders and you just get everything. They're trying to be a little bit more deep there, but it's never made sense to me. It's very odd.
I guess they're trying to simulate stuff like the Netherlands sort of getting annexed, but their colonies fighting on, and then the Polish exile government trying to do stuff from London and all that. But I agree, it is kind of a weird mechanic.
It's very strange, because my whole thing is, a lot of times I like to attack, infrastructure in their war machine, right? Things like that, and get them to fall, and then they fall and I don't have to worry about them anymore, right? And in this particular case, and again, I understand like certain areas fighting on that happened, with the Japanese in World War II, even after they had surrendered and things like that. But it seems like that would be handled a much more, I guess, clear way, or a streamlined way, like having like high resistance or unrest or something like that in an area. Mm-hmm. But it's like those governments still exist. Like you go and you click on them and the government exists. There's a head of the government. There's all this stuff there. And it's like, wait a minute, didn't they capitulate? Because what? And I think there's a specific reason they don't use the term surrender. They just use capitulate. And of course, it always has to do with they're part of that particular faction. That's the weird part, how countries interact with factions as a part of surrender or capitulation. Because they don't surrender, they capitulate, right? Which is that's the weird part.
Yeah, it would be interesting to talk with one of the designers. What is the idea behind that? Oftentimes, when I see quirky features like that in their games, and then I later read one of the older dev diaries, I kind of understand what they wanted to do with it, kind of how they wanted to symbolize it. Like I think we talked in the last episode about pacifists in Stellaris getting a lower weight for weapons research in their skill trees. You see where they want to go with it. But it's just odd from a gameplay perspective, right? Maybe there's something behind that capitulation thing as well that might make sense.
Sure, yeah. And like in the example you just gave, a lot of times you look at it and it doesn't play well, but you're like, I understand that. In this particular case, I'm just like, and I've thought about it a lot, and I'm like, I don't see how this makes any sense. If it made sense, even if it doesn't play well, I would be able to, I guess, mentally handle it better. But yeah, it really annoys me. Anyway, I just wanted to say that. I've been wanting to throw that in there because I've actually thought about going back to Hearts of Iron several times, and then I think, oh god, that fucking capitulated. You know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to go on and play something else. Anyway, so Julian Gallop,
had a big interview in Rock Paper Shotgun about his new game Phoenix Point. So he's really returning to his old ways. He's the inventor of the original XCOM, and now he's returning to sci-fi turn-based strategy gaming. Looks really interesting.
Yeah, it does look interesting.
So setting is you have sort of a virus in a future world, and it's actually causing people to mutate. So apparently the enemies are sort of adapting to what you're doing, how you're encountering them. They are evolving and mutating, and humanity is pushed back to a couple of small safe havens. And from what I've seen, you control the air and the aliens control the sea, and both sides fight for the land, and you have huge enemy creatures and stuff like that. It looks really cool. I'm definitely gonna put that on my list for stuff to play and for stuff to watch.
Yeah, that looks actually really interesting, and it looks gorgeous too. Yeah, I actually saw him doing a post-mortem on XCOM at a GDC within the past few years, and I just looked it up, and the video's not loading for some reason, but I'll link it in the show notes just in case it does start loading. But yes, very interesting stuff, like really, really cool stuff. I'm really looking forward to this. The actual aesthetic looks really interesting, and the creature design is pretty nice. So
yeah, I know you.
To it. That would be cool.
You got a thing for alien tentacle creatures.
Okay, just to be clear, you have a thing for tentacles as well. So I'm just saying, I'm not the one that has my entire online persona wrapped around Cthulhu. So
I just like tentacles. What can you do?
There you go. Okay, so that's most of the news we have this time. I hear while you were on your vacation, you were playing Witcher 3.
Yes,
for the first time.
Yeah, I've been saving it. I've been playing the Witcher 1, Witcher 2 way back when they were out. But I wanted to buy Witcher 3, but then I didn't during the release, and then the first DLC came, and I thought, let's wait a little bit more.
Yeah,
and now I finally did it. I'm not through yet. I'm still mainly through the first part, and now I'm sort of in the big city, Novigrad, which is actually really well done. Feels extremely big design-wise. I mean, it's certainly a form of art to build a city in a limited space, but make it feel really big.
Yeah. How is your thoughts on the richness of the world and content?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean,
told you.
I love the Witcher contracts that allow you to just go after monsters. It feels really cool to just be in the
you're like a monster bounty hunter. It's awesome.
Yeah, actually doing some proper witching instead of being involved in that high and mighty intrigue game. There's also that, but there's also the nitty-gritty witching part where some peasant tells you, oh, my long-dead wife that I totally not murdered is coming back as a ghost. Could you do something about it?
It's a really, really, really great game. I mean, it's pretty much raised the bar for RPGs really hardcore.
Yeah, definitely. Going for an open world game now. There's no grind.
Exactly. Yeah.
I have been kind of grinding though, because first I ignored it, and then I got really into Gwent, the card game inside the game, and I've been running around all across the world trying to collect all the cards. And now I'm in a situation where I'm kind of missing just a couple of cards in a specific area, and you have that book that tells you.
Is it driving you crazy?
Yeah. How many cards you're missing. It doesn't tell you where they are, so I have to consult the wiki, which I didn't want to do because I wanted to find it out myself. But even with the wiki, it's kind of a problem because there are all these merchants and where you can buy cards, but you can also play random people and then get cards from them. Mm-hmm. It's really difficult to really get all of them.
Aren't they releasing Gwent as a standalone game?
Yes. Cool. And I actually had viewers suggest that I play Gwent, but I kind of didn't want to in the past because I hadn't played the game and didn't know if I liked it. But now that I got that, I think I might actually go into that then when it comes out.
That would be a good game to play on stream.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, so now you have a little bit better idea of why I'm so excited about them doing Cyberpunk, because they've said they have I think it's 300% more people working on Cyberpunk than they ever had working on Witcher 3.
Holy cow.
And they said the world space is supposed to be 4 times that of Witcher 3. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, I'm really looking forward to it.
The world is really nicely filled in Witcher 3. There are no...
That's why when we were talking last time and I made the comment about Cyberpunk being bigger and you're like, no, because then it seems empty. I'm like, yeah, but when you play Witcher 3, you'll see there's stuff everywhere. You can just go walking in a straight line and run into some really awesome stuff.
I wonder if they could have pulled Witcher 3 if they had to pay American salaries. I mean, the cost of living is also low in Poland, and they're paying Polish salaries. I wonder, because the game oozes quality, right? They must have been pouring so much money into that game. All the animations, all the text, although text is actually rather cheap as video game development goes. Text is one of the cheapest things that you can have in there. But all the animations and the stuff, it's really nicely done.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. There's actually a really cool video. I don't know if I mentioned it when we were talking about the Mass Effect thing, but it's focused on the facial problems in Mass Effect, but he uses the facial and animation system in Witcher 3 as a baseline, as a comparison. And it's a really cool video. Not very long, but very, very cool from a technical perspective if you like stuff like that. So I'll probably throw that in the show notes just in case anyone's interested. But definitely worth seeing. And it pretty much is have you played Witcher 3? This is how you do a fucking animation system, right? Have you played Mass Effect? No. Well, that's cool. I'm glad you're liking it.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm really taking my time, kind of playing every evening a little bit. The wife's sitting next to me, and I mean, we've both read the books as well, so we have sort of a connection to the world as well.
Your wife read the Witcher books?
Yeah, definitely.
So she's a nerd.
I'm not sure if that makes you a nerd. Why not? Yeah, tell me about your Stellaris experiences. Bring it.
Oh, okay. I'll be very brief on this because
don't be brief.
We've spent so much time on Stellaris on this show. Not this show. I mean, every show already. But I will just say that, Stellaris has that thing where you can be...
What?
I just had another piece of acoustic foam fall on my head. Anyway.
It's raining over there, eh?
Yeah, no, it really is. Anyway, as you know, with Stellaris, you can have a bad start and you're kind of screwed in Stellaris. And the last 5 times I've tried to play it, I've had really bad starts. In the time before this last one, which the last one I want to talk about, I started and it was a small galaxy and all that stuff. And I just got next to, one of those races that diplomacy isn't going to do anything. They just want you dead. And they happen to get a little bit ahead of me, within the first, 10 years or something. And, they come in and stack wipe you, barely, but they stack wipe you, and then you're fucked, right? Because there's nothing you can do. And, and I'm like, fuck this. And so I blah, blah, blah. And then I started another one a few days later. And this one has just been amazing. And it's really cool because I've been able to, I actually started a we will conquer everything type civilization. But it just so happens that I've had so many rich planets like right in my vicinity that I've actually been building tall, like really tall. I only have I'm way into the game, but I only have I think 4 colonies, and my energy and crystal production is above 100, right?
Nice.
And my science is almost at 100 as well. And it so happened that my biggest rival, which was right next to me, ran into another civilization who likes me and dislikes them and completely wiped the floor with them. So that's nice. Except that now I have this issue where I have border friction with this other country. But yeah, it's been really interesting and really fun. I do have a few comments about this, and it did make me think that we should have a segment or do another show where it would be kind of fun to take games that we know quite a bit about and discuss ways that we would like to change them and why. Just from a mechanics and systems perspective, it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, could be interesting.
2 things real quick. One is I like the global food. It makes things a lot easier.
Yes.
I think that they should have went the direction of the Auto Explorer. Remember in the beginning, Auto Explorer wasn't a thing, but they didn't just make it available. It's behind a tech. And I think that the global food should be behind a tech, like an early tech. So for in the early years when you have a less to do because you have only one colony and all that stuff and blah, blah, you have to still manage on your first colony, other than your homeworld, you still have to do the food management there. But then you hit this tech where, whatever, commerce or whatever, but then it goes global and you can choose to make that step. That would be fun. I also think that should be an option in the options so you can play where it's each planet individually, because there is a certain amount of strategy there, right? Also, I would like to see, it would actually be really interesting to actually have a companies or corporations mechanic or system in the game, which they could actually make almost identical to factions, but then you could give them, I guess, charters over certain worlds, which would buff or debuff those worlds into different ways. And also, depending on your government type and how you want to do it, those corporations might have voting rights, for example, right? Depending on what type of government type you have and your ethos and all that stuff. And there's a lot of things that you could actually hang off of that, which would be really interesting. You could have corporations within your empire warring with each other somewhat over resources that you either have to decide to step in or not. And, each of those have political consequences, etc. It would be an interesting thing. And there's other things, but mainly it was that I finally got a Stellaris start, which was really fun. And of course I burned 6 hours on it in a day when I was expecting to play for 30 minutes, because that's how that happens. Yeah. And then I was like, holy shit, I need to edit this podcast. So I stopped.
Yeah, I think the corporations idea is a great one. I've been missing the private economy from Distant Worlds in Stellaris a long time, because it does add so much to a Space 4X game. In terms of emergent gameplay, because we have the private sector in Distant Worlds, you have to give them proper designs that they can build their mining stations and their freighters out of them. Then you have a very logical thing with the pirates. The pirates are going to go after the private sector, so you need a fleet to fight off the pirates, because the pirates are going to prey, try to take your freighters and all that. Pirates can also smuggle, so if you have a weak private sector, you can sort of put money up front, and the pirates are going to come and supply you with their smugglers and sell you the stuff that you need. All that kind of stuff is sort of an emergent gameplay factor that Stellaris doesn't have.
See, in that particular situation, something interesting would be, as far as all gameplay is about giving the player choice, right? And it would be interesting, if you could make choices of how much, if any, military you would actually allow a corporation to have, right? And obviously, the more military you allow them to have, the more they can defend themselves, so you don't have to fund that. But also, there's more of a chance that they may try to break off or not listen to you because they now have a military presence of their own, etc. And balancing those choices to add even more flavor would be great. If I remember correctly, Aurora 4X has a pretty significant private side of it as well, right?
It does have a similar or even a larger private side than Distant Worlds. I haven't played Aurora 4X a lot, but I've watched the Let's Play that Quilty did up to a certain point, and looks very interesting. Actually, I'm gonna get to it at some point. I'm just being overwhelmed currently with stuff that I comes out.
So, real quick, I'm just going to throw this in here. Dawn of War 3. I have not played it. I've watched a lot of content, multiplayer, and the campaign, some stuff like 2.5 hours of the campaign play and stuff. And I will just say, thus far, I am really glad I didn't spend $60 on it. And that's really sad because I love Dawn of War 1. I wasn't as big of a Dawn of War 2 because I really like base building, but Dawn of War 2 was an amazing game. I mean, it really was great. It had like RPG elements in it and stuff like that. That was really great. And Dawn of War 3 just looks like, I don't know, it's just kind of like, it doesn't, someone, I don't remember if it was TB or not, but somebody on the Co-optional podcast actually said it doesn't really have much of an identity. Whereas like, you know, Dawn of War 1 had that great thing, like had some really like original mechanics that really gave it a lot more depth than other RTSs at the time and kind of like raised the bar for other things. And then, you know, Dawn of War 2, it took more like the Company of Heroes model of tactical stuff with cover and all that stuff, more specialized weapons and upgrades and things like that for your men. And then also added this total RPG element where you actually had like semi-permanent characters and they would upgrade their skills and you could decide which ones you'd want to send into battle and all that stuff. Again, taking the RTS model and expanding it. And this one just seems like, oh, it's just another RTS clone. And it looks great. And they did some really cool aesthetic stuff, but it doesn't hold up to the previous two.
This one is set in the Warhammer 40k universe, right?
Yeah, all the Dawn of Wars are 40k.
Okay,
yeah.
I think this game has the additional problem that Total War Warhammer came out and did a lot of really good and crazy things with the Warhammer license. Although that is not Warhammer 40k, right? It's just Total War Warhammer. Mm-hmm. But still,
I would pay ridiculous amounts of money to get a Total War Warhammer 40k, by the way.
That I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I hope so.
I haven't played it actually.
It's really good,
but I've watched content, but I can't cover it on the channel, you know, because SEGA Boycott and
yeah, yep. No, I understand completely, but yeah, no, it's good.
Let's say I'm not boycotting them. I'm just trying to avoid their stuff so as not to get any problems and conflicts. Okay.
Oh yeah, because they're dangerous. That's the problem. You know, in your business, they're dangerous.
Yeah,
so
right.
They're unreliable. So let's pop into Expeditions Vikings for a bit.
Yeah, right. So that is CRPG, classical RPG, developed by a Danish indie studio, Logic Artists. They already did Expeditions Conquistador, and in Expeditions Vikings you take over the leadership of a clan 790 AD in Denmark. Your father dies and you're beset by enemies and you have to try and lead your clan back to strength to actually outmaneuver those enemies. So one of the neighboring chieftains is sort of plotting to take over your clan and incorporate into his, and you have to become powerful enough to stop that from happening. So what you do is you assemble your herd and then you sail to England and you can either plunder there or you can make alliances with them. I have purposely avoided the beta and stuff, so I've only played the first part where you're in Denmark and you're sort of collecting the people, you're raiding a tomb to get more funds, and I just today recorded the episodes where I first came into England, where I was like, yeah, no, we're gonna raid all of you. No talking, more raiding.
Yes, I have noticed it has a really great aesthetic. Like the visuals are like really nice, and the voiceover is wonderful.
There's no voiceover. There's a very little bit.
Really? Because I've watched your Let's Play, and there's lots of voiceover.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the only downside is, I mean, it is a small studio, so there are still a good amount of bugs. I mean, they're patching it. There have been a couple of patches out now, but I've encountered a couple of bugs, but I'm hoping that will sort of fade away in the background. I'm having a lot of fun playing it, and people seem to like it too. So if you're into the Viking theme, and if you're into classical role-playing games, it's a really nice game. And it doesn't cost the world either, just $30 on Steam. So
that's nice. Yeah,
that's nice.
Cool.
But it's also good that they chose that lower price point. Otherwise, people might go a bit berserk because of the bugs at times.
Cool. All right. So if you remember last time we talked about books at all, I was reading Star Wars Aftermath, which is the first book after Return of the Jedi in canon. I finished that. It was good. Not like ridiculously amazing, but it was good. And instead of going on to the next Aftermath book, I actually went and started reading Thrawn because that was released. And I got
an email from Amazon. Hey, this has has been released. I haven't read it. How is it? How is it? Tell me.
So I am 71% through. I know this for a fact because I'm reading it on my Kindle. I don't want to give any spoilers. I'll just say, I mean, of course, it's Timothy Zahn, and it's just great. Like, you and I both like that character a lot, but it's like being in the warm embrace of a book, reading like new content of this character, especially from the original creator, is just great. Again, I'm not going to get any spoilers, but the cool thing is so you know, and this was probably released information-wise earlier, it starts out by them finding him, and it just works up through his career. It's awesome. This isn't a spoiler because we know he eventually hits Grand Admiral. Where I am right now, he's a Commodore, which is right above a commander, right below an admiral. It's good. You should totally read it.
I think I will.
I will buy it for you as a gift. Just tell me which platform you read on, and I will buy it as a gift. Because I want you to read it so we can talk about it.
I'm going to read it on Kindle as well.
Okay, cool.
I'm trying to minimize the stuff that I have to move from one flat to the next. So
I understand completely. That's the main reason why I stopped reading normal books too. Is the moving is horrible.
Yeah, but in terms of timeline, the original Timothy Zahn trilogy, which is not canon anymore, does it have any link to Thrawn?
Not that I know of. Now, in those original books, they do reference that they originally found him exiled on a planet, and they do find him exiled on a planet in this. So he did start with the same source. And I believe the reason, which you find this out really quick, right? Because if you remember, they found him exiled because his people, the Chiss, they don't believe in preemptive strikes. And there's a threat out there that he knows of that in this book you haven't found out what it is yet. He was exiled because he was doing preemptive strikes, and that's against their ethos, I guess, as a people. Again, this covers a timeline that the original trilogy never touched, right? Because when that started, he was a Grand Admiral. This is like his rise to power, which is actually really cool. In fact, you and I have talked about how we actually kind of like the prequels because of a lot of the reasons people don't, because there's the political intrigue and all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. And you get to see that I like. Well, that's one of the reasons I like this book the most, is him maneuvering and learning how to deal with those and like dealing with Tarkin and all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. Although there's not a massive amount of Tarkin in it, but there is somewhat, you know, it's interesting stuff. And the cool thing is it's an amazing book, and we have not heard one thing about Vader so far, which is cool. They're not like leaning on things that they think that need to prop up the story. So it's pretty much about him, and a few other plot lines are already starting to merge a little bit.
Yeah, Timothy Zahn never had to do that. He was was good enough on his own.
I keep waiting for them to get him to like write the story for one of the movies.
He should. He really should. Now that it's open, Audible could actually be good. I gotta find out who reads it. Who reads the English audiobook for Thrawn? If it's out, look it up.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Might be nice.
I noticed that you actually have, under watchable stuff, you actually have Helix on Netflix, which I actually watched. Think of this, the first like when it first came out, I was watching the episodes. I think up to like episode 6, and then I just ran out of time. And I tried to watch it with Fim because usually my watch time happens with stuff we watch together, and she just didn't get into it.
It is not good. I cannot recommend it.
That's kind of why I stopped watching it. Yeah, it's kind of a zombie thing, kind of.
The problem is, I mean, the basic premise could be good, right? You have the CDC, the Center for
Disease Control,
right? And they're being called to into the Antarctica, South Pole, right?
Yeah,
into a research station that is doing research that is normally not allowed because they are technically outside of the borders of any country down there, so they can do what they want.
Not that the U.S. would ever do anything like that. That's crazy.
No, never. So a couple of researchers die, and they get called to sort of contain that and find out what actually happened. And then it turns out that they were actually doing some really gnarly research with mutagens and stuff like that. But the problem that I have with that is, I think we already talked about the maximum capacity of people.
Yeah, of characters.
Yeah, and how it can make a movie or a book really bad if they don't keep to that. And that series is so bad in that regard.
Yeah.
Like, they have people that are possibly infected with the thing. They are containing them. I think that is in the second episode or something. They're trying to contain them, and they manage to escape because the CDC personnel, they're just going in and out. They're bringing needles in there, no problem. People aren't restrained in there, so they can just break out. Then you got to collect them again. Then people break out again. And you just think, people, think for 1 second, you fools.
Yeah, I hate stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's just sloppily done, so I can really not recommend it if you don't want to. I mean, if you don't care about the thing, if you just want to see crazy zombie slasher action, then go for it. But I wouldn't waste my time with it.
I originally started it because I actually like things that have to do with like pathogens and outbreaks and stuff like that. But this was just like, they were just using that as a justification for shitty writing and pretty much zombies, which I guess is,
yes,
you can get that other places in higher quality content. So.
And a love triangle out of the textbook, which is also shitty. If you want, if it was actually done by the Sci-Fi Channel, and Sci-Fi Channel did the Expanse thing, and that is really good. So if you want to do
in Battlestar Galactica,
I've not managed to get very far in Battlestar Galactica. Actually,
really? No,
it's not in my Netflix thing, so I have to watch it via Amazon Prime, and I hate the Amazon Prime app. It's just so bad. It's just so bad. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I don't like it either. Weird. So Greenleaf, I don't even think I've heard of Greenleaf.
Yeah, Greenleaf is centered around a mega church. I think it's in Memphis.
Okay.
The story is centered around a black family that is sort of leading this mega church, and prodigal daughter comes home after being away from home for 10 years. She basically left them for reasons that will be uncovered in the series, and then she returns, and then everything unravels again, all the family secrets and all the stuff. And it's actually really well done. I liked it.
Yeah, actually, Oprah Winfrey is one of the executive producers.
Yeah, and that's the one criticism that I have. She's playing the character of the aunt of the protagonist, and she feels patched in. She's only there to be there and to deliver her lines and stuff. That is the weakest part, actually.
That sucks. But it's got Keith David in it, which is pretty cool. For all you Mass Effect fans.
Who's he playing?
Keith David? He's James Greenleaf. He's the bishop.
Nice.
Yeah.
And who's he speaking in Mass Effect?
Remember in the original Mass Effect, he was the Admiral. Remember in Mass Effect 3, he's the one that actually reinstates you? That's Keith David.
Hackett. Admiral Hackett.
Yeah.
Ah, nice. I did not know that, but he's a really good actor.
Yeah, he is.
That's all I really gotta say. It's a really nice series. For me as a German, I don't know anything about mega churches. I mean,
you're missing out, man.
I do know about them because I studied on it, but it is still a very foreign concept to me that someone is going to own their own church and all that thing. So that was an interesting additional aspect for me.
Well, it's like they always say, if you want to make some good money, start a church. Okay, anyway. Actually, what have I been watching lately? Honestly, just been watching mainly The Office because I don't have time to watch hardly anything, and it's one of those things like we get in bed and she's like, you want to watch some of The Office? I'm like, sure, let's do that. And then we get through like an episode and a half and we're falling asleep, and we're like, turn it off and go to sleep.
You're watching The American Office?
Yes.
I've never seen that. I've only seen the British one with Ricky Gervais.
Yeah, well, actually, what's interesting is that they're almost, at least the first season, they're almost identical because I had seen a significant amount of the British version, and then we started watching the American, and I'm like, I think this first episode is like identical. And she's like, really? And then we went back and like turned on the British version, and it's pretty much identical. And Ricky Gervais is actually the executive producer of the American one.
Yeah, it's his brand.
Yeah. So
there's a German version of The Office as well.
Is it really?
Stromberg is what it's called. It does take a very different turn than the British, though.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah,
and it's doing its own thing. It's a little bit more, German oriented.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole office place politics things, it needs to culturally fuse, or otherwise it's not as funny. So, okay.
That's all. It's fine.
It's off. Wow, our current recording time is like an hour and 17 minutes. That's not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Well, Spot, where can people find you?
On Twitter, you can find me at Spotnik, SPOTNYK, same youtube.com/Spotnik. You? Where can they find you?
At Twitter, at Horath Drak, with the TH, DRAK at the end, and YouTube under the same name. Maybe you're watching this on my YouTube channel anyways, then it doesn't really matter.
Remember, if you need the link, check the show notes. They're always there. And obviously on YouTube, it's in the description. Cool. We are continually trying to improve the audio quality of the podcast. It is getting better slowly but surely, but it is a complicated process. It seems like it would be easy. And it's like, just get nicer mics. Trust me, we have nicer mics. That's not the problem. But we're getting there for sure. Thanks everyone for listening. If you have any comments or anything, you can email us at stuff@localgods.net. I actually did create that address. You can still get us at comments as well, but stuff just is more fun. Or you can go follow our Twitter account, which is Local Gods Show, and that would be awesome. And feel free to tweet at us. That's about it.
All right.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. See you next week.
Bye-bye.